So we have quite a few things to talk about. Most of them, sadly, not quite as positive as this right here. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the dedicated servers for console. We're going to talk about the Amazon Games boss being a bit weird when it comes to AI. And we're going to talk about the future of Amazon Games in general when it comes to Lord of the Rings. First, let me recap what is happening with this. You've probably already seen it by now. There is going to be a TV episode about New World Eternum, or more precisely, it's going to be set in the world of New World. There's a TV show coming to Amazon Prime Video on December 10th, as you can see there, called Secret Level, and it's an anthology series, and each episode is going to be set in a different universe with a different story. One of those episodes will be New World Eternum. Yeah, that's probably positive as well, I guess, if you're a New World Andy. And on a post about this, somebody asked Katie about the dedicated servers for New World Eternum, and more specifically, console-specific servers. So we'd seen before that they were talking about how you could turn crossplay on and off, and quite frankly, we weren't sure how that would work. So I never really commented on it, but this is a pretty clear indication that there will be Xbox dedicated servers that only Xbox players can play on. There will be PlayStation dedicated servers that only PlayStation players can play on. And then the rest will be crossplay for all platforms, meaning PC and console players can do that. But that begs the question, why the hell would you want to play with PC players in a game like New World? I guess what I'm saying there is if you're a PvP player, there's absolutely no reason to play with PC players as well. Just play on the console only servers. Pretty simple. If you're not a PvP player, then, play on all the server platforms, it doesn't really matter at all. And if I'm honest, this isn't a bad choice. I know some of you are probably going to be angry about it, but if you're a PvP player on console and you play with PC players who are also PvP players, then the PC players are just going to have an advantage. Actually, let me change that tone a little bit. It's more specifically the mouse and keyboard. As far as I know, you can play mouse and keyboard on Xbox and on PlayStation, so it's more mouse and keyboard versus controller. I would always think that mouse and keyboard would have an advantage. Now, some people disagree with that, but I think the average mouse and keyboard user versus the average controller player, the mouse and keyboard player will probably win. But if you're a very good controller player, you'd destroy me, right? I'm not that good, so you'd absolutely destroy me on controller. It's not that it's not possible, it's just that it's harder, basically. TLDR, people are probably going to play on their own console-specific servers, and the Fresh Start servers for PC will be just Fresh Start servers with other PC players, it sort of sounds like, partly defeating the whole point. But if you're a console PvPer, yeah, great news, you can do this, and you're probably more likely to get into the wars on those servers, let's be honest. A bit of me is even tempted to buy a really cheap Xbox, plug in my mouse and keyboard, get in the wars, and be a trad. Okay, I'd still be crap, but some people will probably do something like that. It did sort of get me thinking about this though. Looking at it now, they built up this console thing being good for everybody, but the reality is, if the console people are playing on their own, we are just getting this as PC players. We are just getting a 10-player raid and the new PvP zone. And the soul trials that are already there, they're just made repeatable, which I wouldn't necessarily put as one of the 3 pivotal features that we've had in basically a year. I mean, I would, because you've got nothing else, but, I don't think it really should be up there on the same level. And whilst all these other little things are cool and all that kind of stuff, it's a little bit underwhelming. We all know that, right? I'm not going to beat the dead horse. It's just sort of funny that console is literally doing nothing for PC players. There's a slight caveat to that. Maybe we'll all be in the same Outpost rush, but then they said you could turn off crossplay, so I sort of feel like that won't be the case. Because the minute somebody wants to do PvP on a controller and they go into Outpost Rush, they'll be like, why am I getting destroyed? I'll turn off crossplay. No, I'm having a better time. Now, whether or not there's enough people to actually do the Outpost Rush and stuff like that, we don't know, because we don't know how many people are going to be playing on console. Yeah, the implications of this one are going to be pretty major for a lot of people. It's sort of interesting that they worked on cross-platform, only then to not really use it. It's also kind of funny that it doesn't sound like Xbox and PlayStation are getting console servers. They're getting servers dedicated to their platform. Now, it might be that it's only going to be a couple, and I'm making sure to say a couple rather than one, because they do say here servers as a plural. But yeah, that is, I don't know, for me, I'm not really that bothered, right? I'm not really looking for easy fights. I sort of joked about it before, but I'm not really looking for easy fights. And I do think PC players would absolutely not let console players into the wars and stuff like that. If I was a console player, I 100% would play on the console only servers, and I'd try and stay away from the PC gamers. It's a good choice for console. For PC players, I don't think it's that I mean, I don't think it's that big of an issue. Just sort of defeats the whole point of the whole crossplay. So I don't know, make of it what you will. The next thing is that Christopher Hartman made a massive overstep when it comes to the gaming industry as a whole. He said what you see on the screen. AI has nothing to do with taking work away from actors because for games, we don't really have acting. Now that's a giant cap. So I feel like there should be a motion capture joke there, but I can't figure it out because I'm stupid. But that's just simply not true. Many games have good quality voice acting, good quality motion capture. Yeah, sure enough, not many Amazon games have that, but some others do. There's a favorable way of interpreting it though. I think he might be trying to say, and I'm not 100% sure if English is his native language or anything like that, and I can barely speak English, but I think what he was trying to say is the amount of people that Amazon games employ, only a small amount of them will actually be voice actors, motion cap performers and stuff like that. Most of them will be programmers. I think that's what he was trying to say. He did say, I need to be careful. Well, you weren't really careful enough. Mr. Hartman, for whatever reason, was doing some interviews, and in one of them, he talks about how Amazon Games is still trying to find the hook for Lord of the Rings MMO. And this is a very interesting interview. And I sort of got the impression that they want to move away from MMOs in general. Because, as he said, MMOs are tough and they are expensive both to maintain and to continue development content for. I can only assume he's talking about New World there. Not actually developing that much content there though, are you? But in general, I get the point. They're expensive to maintain and they're expensive to make content for. That's true, and maybe Amazon don't want to be there. They're publishing other games. They're going to be publishing the Tomb Raider game. They did a new one that was made by Gourmet called King of Meat or something like that. Yeah, they might be moving away from MMOs. To be honest, so is the entire industry, it sort of feels like. As for Lord of the Rings, yeah, he says that they're still trying to find the hook. Now, I'm not 100% sure what he means by this, because I have a very simple hook that I think would be very successful, but maybe I'm wrong. They do say here that they don't want to go and do the same thing over, which is good because New World, well, you know. What I would assume should be the hook here is that they literally just make this like a classic MMO, except maybe with a more lock-on kind of combat. Maybe there's something more like what Soulframe is doing, but in an MMO setting. According to one of the developers of Soulframe, if you attack an enemy that is near you in that game, it will just automatically latch onto them. Sort of feel like they should do that because that sort of feels like more MMO. I know a lot of you would hate it, but for Lord of the Rings, it's a completely different game. You don't have to buy it, right? Don't change New World, make Lord of the Rings that. And either just basically copy the existing Lord of the Rings game, which a lot of people like, it's just 20 years old, or basically just make WoW. Make World of Warcraft, but with that kind of combat, it'll separate it, it will be different, and it will not be the same thing over. That's what I think. Don't go looking for a fresh twist, because your combat is that fresh twist. No other MMO really has combat like New World, and you can probably just improve it so that it's more suitable for a wider audience. Make it better, and make a classic MMO. People would love that stuff. Unfortunately, what this means is if they're still trying to find the hook, that means they're probably in pre-production, and this game is going to be a very, very long time. I would not expect this game for a minimum of 5 years, and honestly, I think it's going to be more upwards of a decade. Just be aware of that. I'll not keep you any longer. Subscribe, like, have a beautiful day. Goodbye.